Hi, welcome to Aidans Railways. Today we're going to be looking at another locomotive, actually two, but the same loco. We're going to be renaming, renumbering, servicing, painting crew, fitting the crew and detailing the cab. So join me in a moment when we get down to the bench. Right, thank you for joining me down here on the mat. Right, today we have this locomotive. This is R374 Spitfire. It's an old Hornby Railways model. From what I can understand, I think it came out in about 1981. Pretty much utilises all of the old Triang mouldings and chassis and things like that. But I've been after one for a while in these specific colours. I wanted it to be in good condition, and I've seen them on eBay and things like that, and quite frankly, for what they are on eBay, they just seem to go for very silly money. So this one came into the model shop. Mick at Durham Trains Standing knew I was actually looking for one of these, and it came in, it was there. I think I paid probably about £25–28. As you can see, it's boxed. About a week later, another one came in. Exactly the same, boxes in a little bit better condition, but absolutely identical. And I couldn't believe it, so I took the second one as well. But if we get back to one of them in question, it's been sat on the shelf. Actually, both of them have been sat on the shelf for a little while now. And there you go. You can still got its insert card and everything. Been sat on the shelf for a while. Took it out a couple of days ago. Thought I'll have a look at this and check it out, see if it runs well, that sort of thing. And took it out, and it didn't run very well at all. Actually, in fact, it barely ran. But anyway, for the moment, we'll take a look at it. So you can see there, it's very basic in its moulding and everything like that. It still looks wonderful though. I mean, it's in incredible condition for something that effectively is 39 years old. I do like that smoke box though. But you can see I've got a bit of a fond love for these. I like the Battle of Britain West Country, especially when they're like this. Fond memories of Blackmore Vale on the Bluebell Railway. It has had, somebody has at some point, you can just see there, has had a crew in. In fact, the remnants of somebody's feet left there. So they need to come out. But the cab details there just needs detailing up. But as you can see, it is in really quite good condition. This wheel here just needs touching up there, and do that with a bit of dry brushing. Anyway, put it onto the rolling road, and it did not want to run at all. And it might well do that right now. I was a little bit disheartened when it happened. And I thought to myself, oh no, have I bought a lemon? But let's try and see. That now actually does run, and admittedly I've got a little bit of a problem with the rolling road at the minute, but it runs. It didn't before. I'll just put that to one side. It didn't before. It very much didn't want to run. But before I get the other one out of the box, just have a quick look at this tender. There we are. Absolutely love the old Southern livery there. Gorgeous. It's very basic in its detailing. It's all mainly moulded, that sort of thing. But nothing that can't be picked out. But I do think it's absolutely gorgeous. I really do. I've always liked these locos. Obviously, yes, there are some far better Hornby models out there now with better detail and things like that. But these for the time were absolutely great, and I really do like them. You can see the split axles there, showing its age really more than anything else. But there we go. It's tender, very basic. You know what I mean? Can undo that coupling and change it over for something else if we really feel the need. Same as on the actual loco. If I just bring that back into the shot, you can do the same thing on that front pony truck as well. So let's take a look at the second offering. So, absolutely identical, and so there's no camera trickery. There is the first one. This one, I know for a fact, also just doesn't want to run. Now, someone's put crew in here. They haven't bothered to paint them, so they need to come out. I can't see the point in having people that aren't painted in there, but we'll take them out. Exactly the same as the other loco. Wheels are actually in better condition, but otherwise absolutely spot on. Someone's actually fitted the brake vacuum pipe to the front here, and I'm going to have to do some work with that because I haven't bothered to paint certain parts of it, but absolutely spot on. Very happy. But as you can probably see in the bottom here, it still has its original transfer pack, and so did the other one. Now hopefully this will focus in. This does give you the ability to change the number and the name of the locomotive. Now initially when I got the first one, I saw this, I thought, oh well, that's very nice, I'll keep that safe, because to actually still have those transfers with it, brilliant. But then when the second one came along and that also had the transfer pack in, I thought, well, we'll keep that one in like it is and not touch it. So my plan today is to get this thing running properly again, rename and number this loco, get those crew out, paint the crew, detail the cab, put the crew in, and put it all back together again, and then have two separate locos. I'm also very curious to see just how well these particular transfers here match on this paintwork. It looks pretty close as it is, but I'm just curious to see if it sticks out very much. And you can see the front one there, front bar, so that also is going to be a bit of a challenge with this in the way, but we'll give it a go. So we'll move on. First things first, we need to get this locomotive stripped down. Okay, so how well you're going to see this I don't know, but what I've actually done is I've moved over to a vintage controller, and I've just given power, and that is pretty much full tilt. So it is running, albeit very slowly. So not happy with that. So what I'm going to do is we'll switch to the other camera. Okay, so here we are. In order to take this shell off, it's actually very simple. You can't see it in here at the moment, but in front of these two gentlemen, we'll call them, there's actually two prongs sticking up from the chassis into this part of the shell, and the front half needs to be removed. And at first you look underneath and you think, oh, maybe it's something to do with this screw here. Well, it's not. That's actually just for the cylinders. And you think, oh, well, what maybe if I take the screw out for the front pony truck? And no, that's just for the front pony truck. And after ages and ages of staring at it, it became obvious that actually on the top, but rather well disguised, is the screw. So if I undo that screw, right, as soon as you've done that, it'll lift forward. You just need to pull it towards you, and that's the shell off. So put that shell to one side for the moment. Right, very old motor there. So I'm just going to have a quick look inside. And those bushes actually look perfectly fine. So I'm not going to start fiddling with the motor too much, but just looking, I'm wondering whether it's just a matter of a little bit of lubrication in certain areas. We've had this before with the Class 52 Westerns, and they ran perfectly, didn't they? So just going to have put a couple of drops. Anything that moves, same as usual. If you've never watched one of my videos before, anything that moves, motion wise, very little. Get a little drop of oil around everywhere that needs it. Don't overdo it. A little bit on the worm gear there. I'm just going to use this to move it around. So I'm not actually pouring oil on it, I'm just literally moving it around. And if I turn it over, you can see on here as well, although that doesn't look that bad. So let's just put this back onto the rolling road. And see if that makes a difference. So I'm just going to leave it to run. And it's already starting to pick up a bit more speed. Well, I hope you agree with me that that is definitely running a lot better. I'll just slow it down. And try it the other way. That's just been 30 minutes of me alternating it from backwards and forwards. But it wasn't doing any of that before, so if I slow it down, it's quite happy running at a sensible pace, and I can speed it up. So it looks like it was a quick fix after all, no major surgery. So I'm just going to stop that. Happy that that's working fine now, and I'm going to put that to one side. Now, the next stage is I need to remove these two fellas, and then I'm going to have a look at the inside of the cab. Okay then, so I've just got a very fine screwdriver here, and by the looks of it, it's just been a small amount of glue that's been fitted. So I'm just hoping that if I just gently tease it, there we go. That's the driver out. However, these are notorious if they've had too much glue, and it looks it might have. Trying to get this off here is going to be interesting without breaking the actual leg. So I'm going to give it a go and let's see how we get on. So what I ended up doing is I just got a little craft knife here, and I just slowly scraped along the glue area, and it released him complete with foot, which I was a bit amazed about. And as you can see, it has left some tarnishing in there, so I'm just going to give that a little scrape with the craft knife, and then I'm going to probably give it a little light bit of matte or satin black inside there. Okay, so I've scraped out the worst, and I'm sure you'll agree there's not much there now. You can see it's pretty much level, but you can see where it was. So towards the end of this detailing part, I'll just give that a little light bit of matte or satin black at the bottom, just to hide any of that. So next up, we're going to start detailing the cab, and I'm going to paint driver and fireman at the same time. So because the driver and fireman that came out of there really need a bit of a clean up and a check, I'm going to put them to one side, and I have another pack here, a new pack. So I am going to use these for our demonstration. What I am using today is Humbrol acrylic 61, which is like a flesh colour. Humbrol acrylic matte 25, which is just a blue, but it's as close as what I think it's quite close to sort of like overall blue. So that's okay. And what I've got is a Humbrol acrylic satin 85 black. So they're the three main ones for use on the driver and the fireman. With the cab, I've got Humbrol acrylic metallic 11, which is just like a silvery chrome colour, and I have got a 171 Humbrol acrylic, which is sort of like a bronzy coppery gold. In order to get it as close to copper as I could find, I actually picked up a copper rod inside the model shop and held it up against it, so hopefully that will match. So I'll get all the bits and pieces together and a way of holding this shell where I want it, and we'll start painting. Okay, so to make this a little bit easier for myself and on camera, I've got a 1 foot steel rule there, and I am literally going to put a little bit of blue tack on the bottom of the loco driver, place him on there, and I'm going to do the same on this flat section of the fireman and place him there. So you can see it's just easier, so I can hold this, use a brush at the same time and paint it up. Okay, so you don't need to be an amazing artist to do this, to paint up your driver and your fireman or your vacuum pipes. You really don't. So this is the flesh colour 61. I'm going to use this as basically a primer, as well as getting the flesh colour that I want, and you can see it there. These are cheap brushes. These are really cheap brushes because you don't need to be an artist or have expensive brushes to do what we're about to do here, or rather what I'm about to do here. Put some of that on there, and all I am going to do is just paint it. So there you go. Nice little primer colour, as well as giving you the flesh detail that you require. So, well, I'm going to put that to one side, leave that to dry, and we'll move on to the cab. And also point out that this is the Humbrol acrylic thinners, and even though, I mean, actually this is just an old bottle, so I'm just putting the brush into the bottle. I'm not too worried. So, as we can see there is plenty of detail to be had, but it's quite tricky, I would say. And I think in order to do it, I'm going to have to experiment with different techniques on transferring the paint across. Okay, so this is going to be really fiddly and probably really hard to show on camera. You can just see there I've put a little bit on, and I didn't use a brush. What I used was this, a cocktail stick. And that is purely because of one reason. I was just experimenting because I was stirring up the paint, and trust me, you need to really stir this stuff up. Otherwise, it's almost, if it's separated in what it is inside this tub, in this little pot, it almost looks black. I mean, if you look there on the lid, it almost looks black. And I just happened to think, oh well, so I'll just stick this in and see what happens. How well you're going to see, I don't know. I'm not going to try looking at the camera at the same time, but I am literally rubbing it along the indentations and just say touching where the pipework is seen. That's all I'm doing. Hope you agree, that's starting to really jump out now, some of that detail. So I'm quite happy with that so far. I did notice though, we've got this here, and I think I'm going to try and paint that red. Here we go. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to go any further than that, because I think once the driver and fireman in, there's a lot of detail going to be hidden anyway. So I'm going to leave it at that. It was a nice simple experiment and it has worked. Never detailed one before, so obviously the cocktail method is for me. While this dries, which shouldn't take long, which is why I've been using the acrylic paints, we'll move over to the driver and fireman. Right. Next easiest bit, matte 25. Okay, so I've got my matte blue 25, and what I'm going to do now is I'm probably just going to use what's in the lid. I've given it a really good shake, just a little bit on, and all I'm going to do now. Remember where the driver's sat. It doesn't matter because you're going to paint that bit black anyway. So I'm just going to strike his head where his hat is. Not too worried. I'm just going to brush it across, cover the back maybe a bit, and then head for his overalls. So I think for the time being, we'll leave them to dry. So while they're waiting to dry, I'm just going to have a quick look at that cab, and yeah, that definitely looks a lot better. I'm happy with that. As we already know, this particular loco, if I can get it to focus, is Spitfire, Battle of Britain class. So I figure, looking at the names, because at the end of the day, I may come across another one of these models. We have got Manston, we've got Hurricane, and we have got Fighter Pilot. So I'm thinking Spitfire and Hurricane. Okay, so we've got all the transfers there. They're all ready to be fitted. What I have got here is some warm, not hot, warm water with the tiniest tier of washing up liquid inside mixed up, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop this transfer in. Okay, so I don't know if you can see in the video down here, but that has actually started to move on the card, which means it is ready to be transferred. So this is where we get fingers and thumbs, and I really do hope that you can see what I'm doing as I do it. So picked it up. I don't want to mess around too long if I can help it. I'm just going to slide that across. And now I need to just gently tease it into position so that it's straight. Okay, so that's looking straight. What I've got here is some tissue, and I am just going to dab it very gently, because remember, dab it too hard and it will move. If it does move, just try and correct it a little bit with a cocktail stick or even a brush. Brush works. That isn't a million miles off. 29 years old. Is it 39, is it? No, 29. 39 year old. Transfer, and the colour isn't a million miles off. So that's alright. So that needs to be left, if you can, to let it just take hold. In the meantime, I'm going to move on and drop the Hurricane transfer into the water, you can see there, and let that one soak and get ready for transferring onto the body shell as well. Okay, so I think the transfer now for Hurricane is about ready. Okay, let's see if this goes on as easy as that name. Right. Now luckily, it's very clear where to get that transfer, because there's a very clear indentation on the body moulding. Let's just try and get it as straight as we possibly can in there. And as before, just a bit of tissue paper dabbed on just to soak up the excess water. And with it being damp, I'm not too sure, but there you go. You can see Hurricane is now in place, along with that number. So I'm going to carry on and do the other side, and then I'll move around to the front and show you me doing that. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting for the transfer to dry on the newly named Hurricane, Satin Black 85, just going to open that up. Same paintbrush as before, so we're not really changing anything at all. Start with the driver. I want to get his feet black. But already he's starting to look completely different from that black moulding that we had at the very beginning. Some of you might think, oh, he was already black in those places. Why did I do that? Why did I paint it in the skin colour? Like I said before, it makes a really good primer for everything that you're going to do afterwards. Go straight on, makes life a lot easier. I'm going to paint the whole of that base, because obviously it'll be going into the loco. Okay, so I'm going to let them dry and move back onto the loco. So I've just fitted another set of side numbers. While that's drying and the next name plate is soaking, I'm just going to get some of that black again, and I'm going to effectively dry brush it. Very little paint at all, and I'm just going to rub it along the bottom of the cab floor from side to side, just to get rid of the marks that were there from the previous crew that had been fitted. I do think the inside of that cab definitely looks a bit better now. Okay, so I think the next nameplate is ready to be transferred. Just get some of that excess water off, and I'll slowly tease it across. that Hurricane on the other side now. All that's left is to change this front one, which is going to be a little tricky because we've got that in the way now, and I'm in two minds whether to take it off, but I think I can work around that. So before this transfer is ready, I've decided, as I had a success with the cocktail stick before and not wanting to remove this brake vacuum pipe, I've decided what I'm going to do is use the cocktail stick to do what I would normally do, which is get the back pipe red. And with it being an acrylic paint, it should dry really rather quickly. There we go. So I'll give plenty of time for that to dry while I'm waiting for that transfer to release. All in all though, I'm getting quite excited now. Definitely think they've come out quite well. Okay, so I think this transfer is ready to go on now. This is probably the only one I'm really worried about. So you might not get a good shot of this while I'm doing it because of its loco, where it is actually on the loco. But I'm gonna slide it across. I don't know if you can see there, it's on. Obviously it looks very wet at the moment, and because of where it's placed, it's actually quite difficult for me to use a bit of tissue, so I'm having to use one of these. And I'm just gonna dab it on. And hopefully that should dry out perfectly fine. 21C165. So we'll allow that to dry off and then we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so while I've been waiting for things to dry, I've just touched up this pipe work down the side here, using the same method with the cocktail stick. I thought I would give it a bit of embellishment, seeing as it was just plastic black moulding. So you could try that if you want to. I thought I would give it a shot. Okay, so I've done the pipe work now on both Spitfire and Hurricane, and I'll just get some of these bits and pieces out of the way. Next thing is the transfers are on, they're applied, they're there, they're stuck, but I'm not 100% happy. You know, when I did the HSTP, I did actually have the airbrush out and things like that, and I don't at the moment. So what I have here is, this is a Humbrol acrylic 135. It is a lacquer, and what I'm gonna do, or attempt to do, so I could actually ruin everything I've just done. I've given it a good shake. The plan is, I'm just gonna get a very soft brush, and like before, it's just a cheap one, mind. All I'm going to do is get a very light amount, almost like you're dry brushing. All I want to do is get a seal, more specifically around the edges of where that transfer is, because although it's making it look shiny at the minute, when it dries it'll be a different matter. I've quite enjoyed this process. I hope you have while you've been watching. I hope it's given you some ideas, some inspiration to maybe try some of these things out. In some respects, I've just basically been afforded the opportunity to do this video because being lucky enough to find two boxed, well looked after locos. Obviously they needed a bit of coaxing into life because they've blatantly been left for quite a long time. So there you go, I'm just literally rubbing it along the transfers, cotton bud, any excess out of the way. I just wanted to cause a seal, that's all I wanted to do. So that won't take long to dry with it being acrylic. Put that to one side, and while I'm waiting for that to happen, I'm going to bring in, what should we call them? I don't know. Fred and Cyril. That sounds good. Fred and Cyril. It's time to place these two into the cab. So whoever glued them in before used what I would call an excessive amount of glue. I'm not going to do that. So I'll start with Fred. We'll call Fred can be the driver. So I'm just getting a little bit of poly on there, nothing much. It's the Humbrol with the brush. I'm going to place him just inside. Keep him there. Next up, did we say Cyril? Was it Cyril? Yeah, Cyril sounds good. So I'm just brushing a little bit on the bottom here. Try not to use the tubed poly cement. That stuff, just remember that poly cement, it effectively melts whatever it comes into contact with. And you don't want that. So cocktail stick. Try and get him where I want him. Gonna hold him down in place there. You see them? Hopefully it'll focus in. But I think they look a bit more at home there in that cab. And remember, by the time you've got the tender on, the bodies on the chassis, you're not going to see them that well. You are going to see them, but all of that work, that light paint job, nothing spectacular, that's what that's all about. Just doing that, you don't have to be great at it, and it'll make all the difference. Okay, so I've touched up the pipework, I've changed the running numbers, changed the name, touched up the brake vacuum pipe at the front, changed the running number at the front, changed the names and the running number at this side. Cab and crew are looking very smart. Yes, so we've done all of that work there. I've given the chassis a light oil and a bit of a good running, and lo and behold, it's running nicely. I must add to anybody who doesn't own one of these, they're not the quietest of motors. If you own any of these, they're not the quietest of motors. And I used to do quite a lot of sound engineering, and I can tell you that this shell on that motor acts like a reverberation chamber. It just, you know what I mean? So they're not the quietest of locos, but hey, I'm not too bothered. They're not incredibly noisy. But now it's time to put this back onto the chassis. So in exactly the same way that I took it off before, I'm just going to place that there, and you should be able to see when these two nodules, there we go, are going to locate. It's straight back on. It's so easy to work on one of these. Right, and I haven't lost the screw. Just going to drop it straight back in the front there, and then tighten that back up. And there we are, all back together, only this time as 21C165 Hurricane. So we've got two wonderful Battle of Britain aircraft on the names of these two locos. Now, in the meantime, while I've been working on this, I've been dotting between the two. I've touched up the pipes here. I have fitted the brake vacuum pipe onto the front of this one now. This has had a good run in. I've done the cab detail there. And we have two gentlemen that need to be put in, so they can't be Frank and Cyril. So I'm going to go with Bob and Ernie. Bob and Ernie for these two. So we've actually got an old one that I had lying around. I'm going to put him in. And I've just painted up another fireman. So I'm going to stick those two in. You see them in there. So I just need to leave them, let them dry. And then I'll come back and I'll place them side by side with their tenders and see how we've done. So there we go, everybody. At the back here we have the original Spitfire, and at the front we have Hurricane. And I don't think they come out too bad at all. And like I said, all I've done through this, if you've watched the entire video, is use the transfers from I think 1981 to do the to change the names and numbers. I'm amazed they came out as well as they did. And we've got Frank and Cyril I should say, in the back there with our detailed cab. And there we go. We've got our other two in the back of there with their detailed cab. All in all, not a bad day's work, I think, or rather a morning's work. Probably took, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours in total, with interruptions from children. But no, I'm happy with that. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been therapeutic or given you inspiration to try something like this yourself. I had thought initially possibly about just getting some stuff from Fox Transfers, some etched nameplates and things, but seeing as those transfers were there anyway, I thought, why not? Let's give it a shot. So it's not a hard job. If you've never tried it before, give it a go. Honestly, it's not that hard. Watch the video over a few times if you need to, just to make you get the confidence there, but you'll never know if you'd ever try. So, small amount of money paid for two wonderful condition locos, to be perfectly honest, no scratches and things like that. Little bit of work, changed the identity of one of them, and now I feel at the end of the month during the run session we might have to have 2 rakes of Pullman coaches behind these two. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, do so. You never know what else I might be uploading that might be of interest to you. And if you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, get in touch with me. Leave a comment. I enjoy getting them. I enjoy answering them, reading them, find out what's going on with you. And at the same time, if I can help you, I will always try. So once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye now.